BeCrowned is a surreal psychological horror game that creates tension by paying attention to you, your choices, and the way you navigate situations that never feel entirely safe. You play as Richard, and at first everything feels normal. He wakes up in morning light at a quiet campsite searching for his wife Victoria. She left a note saying she went to the waterfall, and it feels like a straightforward search, the kind that should resolve itself just a little further down the trail. You expect to find her nearby. That expectation doesn't last. As you move through the area, it becomes clear just how empty it is. The silence stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling deliberate, like the world is holding its breath. That sense of unease sharpens when Richard comes across a radio in a long, narrow hallway that already feels wrong. When Victoria's voice comes through, she shifts from sounding broken and trapped, talking about their son, to blaming Richard for everything and begging him to find her and save them all. The game never pauses to explain what she means, which makes it feel like you're listening to something you were never meant to hear. At the end of that hallway is a single door, and stepping through it is where the game finally lets reality collapse. Richard steps out into what looks like a medieval kingdom by the sea. Stone structures, fog, and almost immediately, signs of violence. Blood stains the ground, bodies lie scattered through open spaces. Even a church sits beside a pit filled with corpses. But the game doesn't let this world exist on its own. As you explore, modern locations start appearing inside this ancient space. A gas station, Richard's office, familiar places folded directly into medieval architecture. It feels like two realities being forced together. It's around this point that the radio becomes essential. You end up using it constantly. It picks up signals that unlock dialogue, context, and puzzle-related information. The game feeds you fragments and expects you to make sense of them even when they're emotionally charged or incomplete. Combat follows that same restrained approach. The axe ends up being your main weapon for most of the demo. It's slow and heavy, but reliable, and the game clearly expects you to work around its limitations. Much later, you pick up a revolver, but ammunition is extremely limited. You're not meant to fight everything, and survival often comes down to deciding when not to engage. To keep exploration from becoming frustrating, the game gives you a surprisingly detailed map. It clearly shows where you are, how areas connect, and which doors are locked or blocked. In a world designed to disorient you, having that clarity feels welcome. Deep into the kingdom, you start meeting its inhabitants. Some point you toward objectives, others trade items, asking for things like feathers you've collected in exchange for useful gear. They help, but never in a way that feels comforting. Late into the demo, the game introduces something more subtle, and that is player choice. I was asked to decide whether a man should go to his dying brother, someone described as angry and vengeful. I told him not to go. There was no immediate feedback, no reward or punishment, just the feeling that the game will remember my choice. From what's shown here, decisions are treated seriously, and the Steam page confirms that the full game will feature multiple endings tied to how you handle other characters' fates. The demo builds toward a final puzzle and a boss encounter that leans fully into surrealism. The fight takes place in a room washed almost entirely in white. The only way to orient yourself is by the blood splatters on the floor. You're not struggling against difficulty as much as you're struggling to keep your bearings. After the fight, Richard steps outside and meets a woman dressed in black. She introduces herself as Victoria, the last true queen of this kingdom, and claims she's the only one who can lead him to his wife. You never actually see Richard's wife in the demo, which makes the shared name feel deliberately unsettling, and that's where the demo ends. BeCrowned builds discomfort slowly through silence, contradiction, and the quiet pressure of choice. By the time the demo ended, I wasn't looking for answers as much as I was wondering how much responsibility the game was going to ask me to carry. According to one of the developers, the full game is currently slated to release later this year. If you want to try the demo yourself, the link is in the description. If you enjoyed this demo overview, leave a like and subscribe to Boss Room Banter. I'll see you in the next one.